Droany Madera. I am a licensed practical nurse, currently not practicing, but I've also been in the fitness industry for 19 years. This is my partner.
And my name is Danielle Kwoka, and I have been in the fitness industry, not a nurse, but was a personal trainer for Equinox for about 5 years, and then been privately training as well. So we're very well versed in the fitness industry. He's very well versed in the nursing industry, and what we are basically doing as Better Fit nurses is bridging that gap. Raise your hand if you are. Like I said, we love to make this discussion based. And normally our presentations are workshops or a training program, which are very interactive. It's not so formal. So we want to make this very discussion based and open. So we'll start off with just show of hands, who here is a nurse or has been a nurse? Okay. Okay, great. Okay, so what do we think, what does the nursing profession mean to you guys? Anybody?
Everything.
And it could be general, it could be your, outlook on the nursing profession as a whole, or it could be as a nurse, what you make of your day each day. What's important to you guys in the nursing industry or nursing field?
I feel it's a calling.
It's a calling.
You really
It's a
need
calling.
a calling for it. It's not
Totally.
for everybody.
Absolutely. So let's go ahead and name some adjectives that describe nurses.
Nurturing.
Love it. Love it.
Empathetic,
Pathetic.
professional,
Professional, hardworking,
Patient.
patient, caring. All of these things are great.
All giving, right?
Giving, definitely. And so what we want to do is, so if you're not a nurse, what field are we in? Student nurses. Okay, so we're on our way to being nurses. Okay, well, for this discussion, we're going to go ahead and count that as the same thing. Okay, so what we really love to start with all of our workshops and program is you're just going to turn to the person next to you. You can introduce yourself if you do not know them already, and then you tell them, Droany, thank you so much for your service and your passion in this field, because you guys are very important. The people who are becoming nurses and the people who are already. Go ahead. Okay, thank you. I know that can be a little bit corny.
I'm sure you don't hear that enough on a daily basis.
Definitely.
More complaining than you do.
Yep, but we think it's really important to start that way because we find the nursing profession extremely important. What nurses do is very important, not only to the people who they help, but just an assortment of other people as well. So we're going to talk about right now what having better fit nurses actually means and why it's important. So the first thing is we think of nurses, we believe that nurses are leaders. You guys, nurses have a lot of time with their patients. And we know firsthand on several different accounts of how nurses can change the experience of a patient. Either direction. So it is very important to be a better fit nurse because we want our leaders to lead by example. That's what we're looking for. And it's important, and to take ownership of your own personal health is then going to go ahead and we're going to try to improve the health care, starting with ourselves. That's being the leaders. Being the leaders so that you can be representative to your patients how to live a better life. So yes, you are compassionate to them, and as well as showing them and giving them a role model to become. Try to get out of where they're probably not wanting to be currently and into the next thing. And then the third thing, of course, is going to be on a smaller scale, face-to-face. We really enjoy helping people who are helping others. We have as personal trainers, if I can reach one person, that's wonderful. But now if I'm going to help that one person who's then going to take that information and help a lot of other people, that's even better. So that's kind of where we're at, which is going to lead into our story.
As you probably all know, when you're that giving and compassionate, it's hard to take the time off for yourself. I'm sure even on your days off, you're trying to help somebody else, help some family members. And, part of what we want to do is we want you to take some time out, and it doesn't take a lot of time. A few hours a week, just to take care of yourself, to meditate, to exercise. I know exercising can be daunting, but we find ways to simplify it so that it's just taking little chunks here and there. I was a personal trainer for about 12 years. Then I was teaching and developing trainers to become trainers. I decided that I wanted to go into nursing. I quit my job temporarily and went into nursing. Wow, that was hard. I mean, physically, aside from the psychological part, just schooling, it was just so hard. But also physically, just moving from patient from bed to bed, from bed to chair. I was like, how are these people doing it? And half of them don't work out. I mean, more than that, more like 90% are not working out. I'm deadlifting 300 pounds in the gym one day, and I'm struggling with this. And I have to get women to help me. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, and as I look more into it, I realized that, nurses actually sustain the highest amount of injuries on the job. That's on the same spectrum as construction workers, day laborers, electricians, and, a construction worker goes to work and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna be lifting 50 pounds cinder blocks. I don't know if nurses have made that same kind of, connection. So I decided, instead of going from my RN to go back into personal training, I went really hard into functional training and how I can bridge both of those together. Then I met Danielle, and we've been kind of doing this for a year now, and it's been pretty beneficial.
Yep. So as a personal trainer, when he came to me with this idea, of course, I am not a nurse, but I love to help people. And so, of course, and I'm sure everyone has these stories. My aunt was just admitted into an assisted living facility where she has nurses that take care of her and aides that take care of her. And that has been, it's been an experience, to say the least. And of course, it's important that those nurses feel great to take great care of not only their patients, but then that gives their family, peace of mind. Because your patients, no matter what facility, no matter if it is assisted living, a nursing home, or a hospital, your patients are more than your patients. They are mothers, grandparents, sisters, nieces, all of the above. So the nursing profession really has a wider reach. And that's important. And that's important to us. And we want to definitely make sure that we do our part in the community to help take care of those who take care of others. So today, we want to help set you guys up for success. I love that we have so many nursing students in here, actually, because this is perfect. So what we're going to do is we're looking to help set you guys up for success, no matter what your success looks like. So, for some people, success might be coming home and on my 4 days, I have enough energy to take my toddler out to the playground and to the birthday party and come home and not binge eat. That might be success. Or it could be, like some people, the success might be running a Tough Mudder on May 20th, or running a 5K. I mean, those are all whatever your goals are. That's fine, and we want to help you guys get to your goals and success for all intents and purposes. So, starting for our success, we teach this in our workshops and our training program. It starts with our 3 pillars of health. We've got 3 of them. We're going to go through them a little bit deeply in the next couple slides, but we really dive deep into those 3 pillars in our workshops, and we really get you there. So after kind of defining the 3 pillars and understanding more about what is good health and what is going to help you be successful, we need to understand the challenges. Like, why aren't we doing these things? There's a lot of very obvious reasons, and just kind of trying to bridge those gaps. And then the third thing, of course, is going to be building the toolbox. So we need the tools to overcome the challenges, to get to the good health, to create success, right? So that's kind of what our goal is today. So moving through these 3 pillars of health, you can burn this into your memory because these aren't going anywhere. So the first one is moving better, improving your movement. We're using more effective movement patterns to help you function better and prevent injury. As personal trainers, this one definitely we know and have seen hundreds of times. And I would even bet he's seen it thousands of times. Moving better, a lot of times we see people who say, my knees hurt, my knees hurt, my knees hurt. We stretch their hips, we get them to move better, no more knee pain. Not because they started taking certain medications or doing anything else, but just doing a little bit of mobility work either before their shift, before bed, when they wake up. Maybe even, ooh, I was just getting off the couch on my day off. You know what, maybe I'll just do a couple more of these. It just takes a little bit, right? So there's one of your tools. So the next thing, the next one's going to be our well-balanced diet, improving our nutrition. It's not the most innovative. It's probably not the most fun either. But it's properly fueling for the demands of your work. So a lot of times I think we think that nutrition is like one way. I ate my protein. But it just depends on what your work is. And understanding a little bit more about how to properly fuel for what you're going to be doing. For example, if you are running a 5K, maybe we're not really necessarily looking for a whole bunch of protein. And maybe that's where the disconnect is. And that's how you can kind of adjust to feel a little bit better. Because with these 3 pillars, I can't get you, we can't get you a great body. That's unfortunately, that I cannot just give that to you, right? And similarly, with a well-balanced diet, I can't necessarily give you, let's say, a shorter shift, but I can give you better tips to be able to have better energy levels, to be able to do those things that it is that you want. So then the third one's going to be probably all-around favorite, our stress reduction. And that's going to be identifying and managing stress. And stress in our world
can come in a lot of different ways. It could be emotional, psychological, it could be physical, and really they all impact your body in the same way. I was just talking to Jorge earlier, and one of his challenges on one of his night shifts was he's got this 1 hour where everything is closed. It's like 3 a.m. It's his break and doesn't know what to do, right? Simple solution in that situation, which nurses really need, is like just 5 to 10 minutes of meditation. Put on some type of meditative guided meditation, some mindful meditation. There's a lot of studies now that are showing that people who meditate regularly tend to have a longer lifespan, tend to have lower, a lot less levels of stress. And it's like I said, it sounds so hard, but really it's just taking that time out. If you can set that time out, sit in the corner, put on a blindfold. You might be the weirdo, but be the weirdo who's going to come back to work, feeling a lot better, not injured, and there's physical benefits and psychological benefits to meditation, restful breathing, restorative breathing, which helps reset the whole sympathetic system. So that's part of what we, and a lot of people, there are ineffective coping strategies. Like I'll go first. Most of the workshops we just did, I think out of the 20 nurses in the room, 19 of them, their stress relief was going out for a cigarette. Does it work? Yeah, temporarily, right? But just until the next cigarette. So what we're trying to give you is something that actually works long term and possibly can help you not need that next cigarette or that extra bag of chips or that third Coke or the fifth cup of coffee. Why are we having that fifth cup of coffee? Maybe the 3 hours of sleep we're getting because we're spending 6 hours on social media. It's tying everything together so that we're able to really actually deal with stress, not find ways to just kind of feel like you are.
So we're going to use all of these things together, which is why we're not really, in this sense, and even still in our training, we're not really personal trainers anymore. It's not all about get to your gym and do your 10 squats. It's not so much about exactly the exercise that you do. It's really the full package. It needs to be well-rounded because if I'm in the gym working my tail off, but I am so stressed out, my body is not going to respond to that exercise the same way as if I was feeling really good and feeling really calm and level and present. And that's why it's really important for to have all three of them.
In the last job I worked, we had what's called the resting metabolic assessment. So I had a client who, was working out 2-3 hours a day, super hard, and she wouldn't lose weight. So I've been working out hard with everything, I'm eating what I'm supposed to, and when we looked at what her daily life looks like and how much stress she had, going to the gym 2-3 hours a day was just causing her more stress. So what we call her respiratory quotient, which means at rest, how much carbs to fat you're burning, she's always burning carbs. So the moment she goes into her 2 or 3 hours of strenuous exercise, she's just burning carbs, which then she needs more carbs. So she's done and all she wants to eat is carbs all day. So that's the recipe for disaster because you're working on it's so stressful, right? It's just more and more stress. So it's about being able to kind of see where you're at and what you actually need, not what you've been told that or what you think you need.
Right. And a lot of this.
So the answer was we looked at her sleep. It turns out she wasn't sleeping. She's postmenopausal, so there's a lot of issues that we dealt with. And just dealing with her sleep, just giving her an extra an hour and a half of sleep a day, in a matter of 2 weeks, she lost 5 pounds. And that's after about 8 months of not losing any weight. And really, a lot of times, it's not adding more stress that you need, it's being able to understand where you're at and how to maybe scale it back and work on regeneration, recovery, and stuff.
I think a lot of times people hear better fit nurses and immediately think that we're going to come in and drill them with a really heavy workout. That's actually almost the complete opposite. We don't necessarily think, for some people who are ready for that and who are in that state, sure, but for the most part, it's actually not. It's meeting people exactly where they're at and being honest about where you're at. Because, it might feel great to go and either run a mile, or it might feel great to go in and just I just killed myself in the gym, it was awesome, but then you don't go back to the gym for 2 more weeks because of that one awesome bout. So it's kind of managing those things as well. So many of us know all of these things. These aren't necessarily the most groundbreaking ideas here. So why aren't we doing them? What are the challenges? So for the students, are you guys finding that you're having these challenges already? Yeah, already. Okay. So what are the biggest challenges? Time. What else? Anything else?
Reading is sedentary.
Yeah.
Sit and you read, sit and you read.
Studying and not enough time to work out maybe weeks.
Okay.
Irregular schedules.
Irregular schedule, pretty much time. There's a lot of sitting involved. Okay. So with a lot of these challenges, we're going to go through some things that can help to kind of counterbalance those challenges. So For today, we're going to talk about building our toolbox for a healthy lifestyle. So the tools in this case are going to be our techniques that we use at certain times to bring us to a healthier neutral state. So it's like when that teacher or that patient is really driving you insane and you're just like ready to, it's that moment. What tool do I need to pull out to use right then to not let that affect me? Because is this stress worth my health? And that's always the question. And to be honest with you guys are worth it. Everyone in this room is worth it. So the answer is no. Like, it's not worth your health. So we just need to have the strategies. So we're going to talk about the tools. Just about everything that you learn in our workshops and our training program is end up becoming tools. And we really focus on that. So our toolbox then is going to be basically the strategies. It's all of the tools used together in combination at certain times. So maybe when I'm stressed and this one patient or teacher is driving me insane, there are times that I use this tool because I didn't sleep. But then there are maybe other times that I don't use that same tool because I have slept and I have a little bit more patience in that moment. So it's about continuing to build. Nobody's toolbox is ever fully full. Mine certainly is never full. And so it's just all about kind of identifying which things are tools and what can we use as tools. So we're going to go through each of our pillars of health and adding a couple of tools into your personal toolbox to be able to combat each of those three pillars.
And feel free to offer any tools that you think work for you, any options, because I'm sure somebody else can use that.
Yep, and we would love to talk about all of them. So the first thing is, who in this room has heard the term, when you're lifting something up, use your legs. Don't bend your back. And it's like, now, wait, raise your hand if you've heard that. And now raise your hand or put your hand down if you've actually been taught how to do that. So there's a disconnect, right? We've been told to use your legs, but we don't necessarily know what that means exactly. And so what we want to talk about today, we really go very, very detailed, especially in our training program specifically. But we want to talk about the difference today between a hip hinge and a knee dominant bending pattern. So when it says use your legs, I mean, what exactly are we talking about? What part of my legs? So we love demonstrations and we love to be interactive. So I apologize for maybe a stiff demo, but we're going to go through a hip hinge. So in our workshop specifically, we really talk about how to create a neutral spine to move through your hips. But just for this presentation, we'll just go ahead and go through the actual hip hinge. So if you watch my body, and I'm moving through the hips, hips will be here. So if I move through the hips, my chest comes down. My butt or hips go back, and I basically come down this way. And if you watch, this part here, tibia, your shin, whichever one you want to call it, is going to stay relatively vertical. So hips moving back, chest comes down, my legs stay straight, pretty much, right? So that's one way to move, which is very different than now if we say bend your knees. So if I just bend my knees, that's going to be here. So I can go all the way down, right? So my knees go forward and my chest stays up. Those are two different ways to use your legs, right? So it's a little bit confusing and it's hard to figure out, especially if you really haven't been properly taught how or when to use them.
Has everyone seen that archaic kind of diagram of the person picking up the box?
Yeah.
Are you supposed to pick up the box? That's totally wrong. Right? Ideally, you want to keep your heels down. You want to use your hips. You want to use your quads. doing that also you get a nicer butt, nicer quads. Who doesn't want that, right?
Especially in beach days.
But the good thing about, you know, in our program too is that we teach you how to effectively use your glutes, effectively use your quads, and most importantly, maintaining a neutral spine. If you've heard that you know, keep your back flat when you lift, again, our back isn't flat. We shouldn't be lifting with a flat back. We should be lifting with a neutral spine. But what is a neutral spine? How does that look? If you have lower back problems, like, you know, the first thing you tend to see with people with lower back pain is that flat back, right? Because it feels better. We don't want to do this, but actually the best thing for that lower back pain, to reduce the lower back pain, and to rehab the lower back pain, is a neutral spine. But you know, a lot of the education around that is we don't get enough of it. So in our program, in our workshops, we try to teach a lot of neutral spine, and how to bend, how to lift. If you're having knee pain, how to use your hips more. If you're having back pain, how to be able to squat more instead of deadlifting more. And you know, the difference between a squat and a deadlift, one is more. And then we go even more into like lifting, shifting, twisting, and movements, and how to effectively transfer leverage through your body and still keep it strong. It's almost like working out at work too.
Because the truth is, if we can figure out how to use our bodies properly like that, when it comes time for that, I have to help move this patient, I have to reposition that patient. Instead of being like, oh no, my back is going to break. It's more of like, this is my time. This is my time. This is the moment where I'm going to get 3 reps in. Because it's not necessarily about getting 15 reps all at one time in a day. Maybe you get those 15 reps in 3x3s because you're lifting patients or maneuvering, you know, whatever it is that you're doing. So that's where we're trying to add in just kind of sneaking the fitness into your day versus I now need to go do the fitness, right? So going back over that again, we're going to talk about the hips again. So let's go ahead and think of a time in which we would use the hip hinge. So I'll demonstrate again. Hips go back, chest goes down. What would I be doing that I would need this for?
Picking up lightweight items.
There it is. Picking anything off the ground. Bending over to tie my shoe. Have you ever heard those times when you're like, oh, I threw out my back, I was tying my shoe. It's certainly not the tying of the shoe that threw out the back. It's the bending over like this for 20 years that ends up doing that. So it's that. So yeah, bending over anything to pick up off the ground. That's a nice neutral spine and moving through the hips. Now when would be a good time to move through the knees?
Picking up a weight.
Picking up something. You could actually use either of those body patterns to do that. But a lot of times, actually one of the most times that I hear this for is if you're holding a child. If I'm holding the child and I have to pick up the dog poop, I can't this, right? So I need to come down here. But there, and you know, that's just a very daily life fundamental thing. And that could be during anything. So maybe your weight is here and I need to help push it. I need to keep my chest up and get underneath of it and push. So it's things like that. Okay, so then what we're gonna give you today is a tool. So we talked about the hip hinge and knee dominant, which we would love to really dive deeper into. Unfortunately, the way that we're dressed, you know, it's not going to happen today. But, you know, so what we do want to leave you with is the world's greatest stretch. That is literally what it's called, so you know it's good. But this is something that you can do, and I'm going to demo this in my uniform here. But this is something that you can do to loosen up the hips to be able to move well in these patterns. So I'll show it to you. And then if you follow us on Instagram, it's all over our page. So you want to talk it through and I'll demo?
So part of what Danielle's going to do is mobilize her knees, mobilize her hips, kind of mobilize his spine, but also load it all through movement, so that, you know, there's different parts to moving better. It's not just strengthening. It's it's kind of like a fishing rod. You know how fishing rod bends a lot, but it's still strong. It's made for a certain purpose. Our spine is made the same way. It's made to be able to bend and still keep its integrity for a long time. So what she's gonna do now is she's gonna lean forward, loading her hamstrings, stretching her hamstrings, reaching forward. Then she's gonna walk out into a plank position. You've seen this position, right? So at this point of the plank position, she's gonna reach up with one leg, bring it outside her leg there. And right now, what she's doing is she's getting a little bit extra rotation in the hips. At the same time, she's loading